Precious Life is proud to support Pocket Books, an independent, queer, feminist bookstore committed to the idea that bookstores are places for communities to share knowledge, wisdom, resources, and connections. We stock an intentional and eclectic selection of books that we hope will help you feel safe exploring something new. Pocket Books is a place of discovery where readers find support for their ideas and new interests. Stop by one of our Lancaster, Pennsylvania locations or shop online at pocketbookshop.com. And we're brought to you by Hidden Barn Books, an independent bookstore in Bar Harbor, Maine. Come browse for books. Isn't searching for that next book, not knowing what you might find, wonderfully stimulating and relaxing? We invite you to come and linger, pore through our books, and enjoy your time exploring. Or find us online at hiddenbarnbooks.com. One of the hardest things about the holidays is that when someone passes away, all your beloved traditions start to feel a little haunted. For instance, it's difficult for me to attend midnight mass anymore and listen to O Holy Night without going immediately to a place of grief, because that was my dad's favorite carol. But I have this theory that writing about holiday traditions might be its own kind of resurrection. So I'm going to share 3 Kelly family holiday memories, all from the previous century. 1. Cookies. My mother, born Annmarie Scarpetti, and her extended family mostly baked Italian Christmas cookies. Nut crescents and date bars and faffettes, these weird brownish cookies you'd bite into thinking they'd be chocolatey, but instead they were mostly flavored with nutmeg and citron. Mom would usually cave right before Christmas and bake at least a couple kinds we liked, snowballs and cutout cookies. But most of the cookies went into coffee tins. She collected them all year long, and we'd cover them in wrapping paper, and then my sister and I would put them in the little red wagon and deliver the cans of cookies all around the neighborhood. We'd hand the Birchies up on Cardinal Drive their container of cookies, and they'd hand us one for our family. And my sister and I were always hoping for non-Italian ones. Here in Ohio, that meant Buckeyes, these homemade peanut butter chocolate candies, or thumbprint cookies with the little Hershey's Kisses in the middle. My mom did not make those, so we were always on the lookout for sweets that, were a little sweeter. And 2, as we got older, we came to appreciate Mom's coconut dream bars and cookies made with sour cream, at least a little bit. She'd put them on a plate beside us while we were wrapping gifts in front of the television. We'd watch It's a Wonderful Life, of course, or some BBC version of A Christmas Carol. My favorite holiday movie was, and probably still is, Desk Set, this Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy comedy about one of their first IBM computers in the workplace. I suppose it's not technically a Christmas movie, but then again, I'm one of those people who considers Die Hard a Christmas movie, and in many ways it's not truly the holiday season until I see Professor Snape falling from the Nakatomi Tower. And 3, finally, one non-Christmas cookie-related memory. Christmas Eve. That was always a big holiday on both the Irish and Italian sides of my family. Our Grandma Mary would make noodles, and we'd have the Feast of the 7 Fishes, which was an Italian tradition where if you ate 7 different types of seafood, it was considered the most sacramental way to welcome Christmas Day. Though mostly as kids, we just ate the pasta. And from the Italian side of the family, we'd go to the Irish Kellys, where they always had boxed brownies and Fritos, and there was tinsel on the tree, which our mom never allowed because it was too messy. And sometimes we'd go to the kids' mass, and sometimes we'd go to the midnight mass, and sometimes we'd go to the 10 p.m. midnight mass because the priests needed their rest before preaching all over again on Christmas morning. And it didn't matter which service we went to because we'd always see friends, and we'd sing carols, "Oh, Come All Ye Faithful," and "Joy to the World," and Silent Night. And at least growing up, it felt like cookies and pasta and families and love were enough, and that they would be ours the whole year through. Today's guest, Kate Baer, and I talk a little more about the holidays in this episode, so I'll introduce you to her in a moment and we'll get to it. But I want to mention one more. Christmas, the first one I spent alone. I lived in Seattle in my mid-20s, and my parents, brothers, and sister were coming for New Year's, and my husband, who was in the Navy, was delayed returning home from deployment somewhere in the Pacific. And so I bought my first Christmas tree on Christmas Eve for like $20, and I bought some decorations from a big box store for like 75% off. And I bought 4 stockings that we still hang on our fireplace mantle today, even though we're now a family of 5 or 6 if you count our black and tan German Shepherd Archibald, and most days I do. Anyway, I put that tree up all by myself with a pulley system of yarn that I looped around curtain rods, and it only fell over twice until I got it right. And I was so lonely, and most of my friends were relatively new ones, and back then I didn't know how to invite myself to someone else's party. But my neighbors saw me hauling that tree up the front porch, and they invited me to join their family gathering. And that was 25 years ago, and I've forgotten their names, but never their gesture, and what it felt like to be included on a night when I would otherwise have been completely alone. And so I always keep a lookout this time of year. I hope you do too. I hope you'll check on your people, your neighbors, of course, but also your friend who lost his mom, or your coworker who's spending the first holiday since his partner passed away. Make sure no one is alone, unless they want to be, but even then, just check. And wherever you are, wherever you're listening, please know I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful you're here. And there's always room for you at my family gathering, whether we're serving cookies with dates or coconut or citron. You're welcome here during the holidays and all year long. Our guest today is Kate Baer, a writer and #1 New York Times bestselling author of 4 books, including her latest, How About Now? Kate's work has also been published in The New Yorker, Literary Hub, Huffington Post, and The New York Times. Kate Baer, welcome to Wild Precious Life. Kate Baer, welcome to Wild Precious Life.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, so I know you have a new book out now, How About Now? And we're definitely going to talk about that. But we're sitting here amid the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, and I haven't bought anything and I haven't wrapped anything, and it's just madness. I don't know. I wonder if we could slow it down and just chat Christmas and holidays. And I don't know, what was this time of year like for you way back in the day? How did you guys celebrate the holidays?
A very traditional Christmas in the 80s and 90s, looking for Polly Pockets and hoping for the best at family gatherings. Family's complicated, but as a kid, my parents really tried to keep things magical and special. And yeah, I have nothing but great memories of Christmas. And now I realize as a mother that the Christmas magic is really just the mother. So now I'm trying to replicate that with 4 kids in the house, and it's exhausting. So yeah, just doing my best here. I also have a December birthday. Not me, one of my kids. So I'm kind of slammed here this week, but doing my best.
No, it's impossible to do a December birthday. My husband's a December birthday, and you can't. Like, it's pajama bottoms for one and then pajama top for the other. And with a child, you can't do that. He said for his December birthday, his parents used to do like a grand trip. So he suggested that we could just take a grand trip as though that was somehow a simplification of
Yeah,
the let's just
that
add a
sounds
trip
crazy to
in.
me. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Good luck with that.
Yeah, indeed. Are your kiddos, are any of them old enough to be in, like, are they all pre or post Santa magic? Like, what's the oldest one?
I have a high schooler and a middle schooler and 2 in elementary school. I don't think any of them believe in Santa anymore. But we, we still talk about it, and it's hard to navigate a high schooler and a first grader. in any breath of anything, Christmas, a vacation, going to the beach, family movie night, eating in a restaurant. It's difficult to manage everyone's expectations and emotions, but we're doing our best over here.
Yeah, one wants to try champagne and caviar, and one wants to watch SpongeBob. Although sometimes my oldest will watch. I have a 20-year-old, and my baby is 13, so he's just aged into us dragging him into, movies that they want to watch. And but it was absolutely like that for a long time. Like, let's go on a bike ride. Oh, the youngest can't ride a bike. Oh, let's watch a movie. No, I don't want to watch that cartoon. So I felt like I understand what you're saying, and the struggle is real, and you're doing it, man.
Yeah, doing the best I can.
Yeah, cool, cool. Well, I only know you from the internet, which is always kind of funny and weird because you know someone's social media presence. But I lead workshops here in Cleveland, women's writing workshops, and I share poems and prompts on Saturday mornings. And I have a couple of books here. The Whenever someone's writing really resonates with people and urges them to like write the unsayable, I think you're good at that. And I thought I would just welcome you in because you've written about a poem entitled "Episiotomy" and another one about pelvic floors, and I see how your willingness to write into the soft underbelly of things helps other people feel like they can write the same. So thank you for
Yeah,
the gift of your work.
of course. Thank you for reading.
I kind of want to talk about pelvic floors, but I feel like we should set the stage. Would you be willing to read a poem about it first?
Sure. Yeah, my editor tried to cut this one because she said it was too much of a bummer, which I agree, but I'm glad I kept it in there.
Me too.
This is called At Pelvic Floor Therapy. The room is long and gray and filled with desperation. On the table, I contract, release. Over 70 hours of labor to have my children, if you add it all up, which I did after my husband asked if this sort of thing is covered by insurance. My therapist asks if I'm going to make this into another poem. I don't want to tell her. I'm too depressed to write.
I love that one. I love so many of your poems, but I love the way that you write about things we don't. I've never read a pelvic floor poem before. Maybe you have like a whole bunch of them, but you're the first as far as I'm concerned. I didn't even know that I had a pelvic floor for a long time. It wasn't covered in any of the anatomy classes that I snoozed through.
Yeah, I also wasn't aware of this, and I know this is a big conversation at large about women's health and maternal health really being neglected in our country, and pelvic floor specifically. I think it is now becoming something more that women are talking about, especially preventative care, as they do in other places like Australia, and other countries, Western countries. Yeah, I was very frustrated to learn after my prolapse that this was something that could have been prevented or something that I could have at least been educated about before I had my children. So it's been very frustrating. But like most things in my life, it usually comes out in the work. And so I'm happy to share about that. I have written at length about it on my Substack, which is just another word for blog. And yeah, I'm happy to share about that kind of thing. I'm really an open book when it comes to really every topic. And I notice that whenever I share something like that, especially when it relates to women's health, there's a lot of Me Too's. And that's been really encouraging. I will absolutely need to have surgery at some point in my life. And I am not looking forward to that at all, but am looking forward to connecting with all the women that have already done that surgery, which the internet's a double-edged sword, but the positive side of that coin is that there are a lot of women to connect with over that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so completely true. I was at a fundraiser sometime in my mid 40s, the first time I ever experienced urinary incontinence. I just assumed I was like having a period in a day that I didn't notice. And I remember like that's the day that you're just like leaking onto your shoe. My third baby was ginormous. He was 10 pounds and 3 ounces, and I had to eat a lot of cake during that pregnancy. And then he was born, and I felt like some of my internal organs, perhaps my kidneys and definitely my bladder, like things had been rearranged. But even amid all of that, those were never conversations. I don't remember anyone even asking, "Hey, are you?" It was maybe a box that you checked on a form at some point in medical history. And urinary incontinence, I always thought was like you were 89 and needed to wear Depends. I didn't know there was anything in between, or that pregnancy was something that might bring it on. It's just sort of a lot of maternal health seems to be like, oh yeah, sometimes when you have babies, you're just like messed up afterwards for the rest of your life, and we don't talk
Right.
about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of shame around it, which is why I think we don't hear about things like urinary incontinence, fecal incontinence, problems with sex. There's so many parts of pelvic floor health that can affect really so many areas and quality of life. And so, yeah, I've really enjoyed not having a prolapse, but connecting with other women and being able to share those things.
Do men read your poems? I'm not suggesting that men don't read, but when you do your readings, are is it just like a sea of females and like three gay guys, or like who do men read your poems?
Yeah, I love the gays. I think that I, this tour really surprised me. I've been on, this is my fourth book, and I will say that out of all the books, this tour has included the most men. Of course, there are a few that are being dragged there by their wives for date nights, or it's their birthday, and they were bringing them, this was their birthday present. They're just trying to get to the good part. So there's definitely that, but I had at least five or six, and that's a lot for me. Men come up to me who were the fans themselves, um, which was really fun to see. Really great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad for that. I thought maybe we would read one more if you've got it in you. The interview with a male moderator at a decorated literary event. I like that one. It's yummy, and I was wondering if you would be willing to read that.
Absolutely. This is called Interview with a Male Moderator at a Decorated Literary Event. Question: do you ever feel that men might feel alienated from your work? Answer: do you ever feel that men are missing out on the richest parts of humanity? Women learn from an early age to sit with one another in great discomfort. Bad parents, broken hearts, throbbing menstrual cramps. Have you ever stepped onto a playground, peeked inside our bathroom, walked through villages or coffee shops, and noticed women talking? Once you look, your eye will always find us. It's our oldest comfort and our greatest power, to be able to sit without agenda and let suffering know she is not alone.
Gorgeous. Yeah, I don't know. How do we fix it for those boys? Why can't they sit in discomfort? I mean, they would tell us, "Oh, but I can like do lots of push-ups and burpees." And they think that's the same, but it is absolutely not the same.
Last year, I chaperoned the eighth grade field trip with my son. And during that field trip, we came into this big conference room for lunch. And when we entered the room, every single girl, not one girl was left out, sat on the floor with our lunch in circles and talked. They just yap, yap, yapped. And I stood there looking at them, smiling, and I thought, oh, this is the best part of the field trip. And then I looked at the boys. They came into the room, sat at the table at the center of the room, sat around the table, pulled out their lunches, pulled out their phones, and did not say a word to each other. And I thought, oh, you're missing the best part of the field trip. And I think that now I look at the men in my life, I look at the men in our government, and I think, one, you're missing out on the best part of the field trip. And two, you're missing just a very important way to solve problems. I think three women could sit down and in 10 minutes solve most of the problems men are spending their whole lives trying to solve. And I mean that in the macro and the micro. And it's very frustrating and it's really hard to watch. Even with I have three sons, I have a daughter and three sons, and I see that with them as well. And I don't know. I feel like I'm being the best model possible. I prioritize my friendships as much as I do a marriage. I Someone asked me at an event a few weeks ago, well, how can we fix this? And I thought, well, I'm not the one who needs to fix this. It's my husband's job to model this, which he has really tried to do to plug into friendships, to show that vulnerability that women are very easy to show with each other. I have hope I have hope that things will change because, things, of course, just the male culture has shifted. I feel like we forget that sometimes. I certainly do. All the statistics about millennial fathers show that they've never been more involved in their kids' lives, and there's a lot of things working against us culturally, but this one is kind of a positive shift, and so I hope we can get them to the best part of the field trip.
I love that. Yeah, my son, I have two daughters and a son, and my son has watched a lot of Gilmore Girls, and I feel like that might help some way. He knows
He
about
also
Dean.
lives in a matriarchy. If
He
he's got
does.
mostly women in your house, men who live with a bunch of sisters really have a leg up because they are watching a female-dominated culture inside their home, which I do think very much helps them.
Yeah, he shares a bathroom with girls who use tampons and have
Right.
periods, and so he's learning to shave at the same time that they are out of feminine products, and I love that for him, that he's immersed in just girlhood. And I found, we went to he's at that age, he's 13, so we went to a friend's bar mitzvah the other day, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but you get to a point where you go places with your kids and you go places with them. And then there's other times there's just like this imaginary line where you go places with your kids and they do not want to be seen with you. You were their ride, but we happened to both be invited, and naively I thought we'd be sitting together. Oh no, 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 no. My son went and took his place at a table of seven other girls and him. And I love that because, just like you said, he was on the field trip, right? No phones were out. They were in it. They were dishing. Um, I love that for him because you're right. The boys, otherwise, they're missing it. They don't know how to sit in discomfort, and often don't know how to sit in joy that isn't related to a sports game. So
Exactly.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful when I look at my son.
Good. I love
So,
that.
so in other poems, you have written a lot of what I would call those like unsayable things, right? Like you've written about desire and assault and illness and healing and breasts and hoo-has. And does anything feel unsayable to you or unwrite downable?
I think, like I said, I'm really an open book. There's not really anything I won't talk about. It's more the things that I protect are the things that are in relation to other people. Like I said, I have a 14-year-old boy. He certainly doesn't want me writing poems about his changing body. Um, Now, my husband's, he's completely on limits. Like I said, my prolapse gives me, I think, the ability and the right to write about anything with him. If my rectum's in the wrong place, I can write about whatever I want with him. But I had four of his children. But I think with everyone else, like my parents, my sister, my friends, my children, people in my close circle, any kind of conflict or anything that's their story is very off limits to me, which can be difficult. It can be really difficult because those, of course, are in something that I'm involved in. Um, but I really keep those things out of my work as much as possible.
And do you make it a practice if you write about somebody, do you send it to them and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this, sending this out into the world"? Like, do you get someone's okay, or do you just like, if it's about somebody else, I'm not going to include them? What's your practice for, I don't know, literary citizenship when it comes to stories that are yours but are also somebody else's?
When I wrote I Hope This Finds You Well, I did get permission from every single person because those, of course, involved other people. I've never asked permission of my husband because, like I said, I don't think he has the right to do that, ask me for that. But I don't know if there are really any other pieces in other books that I would have felt that way because I think they are positive or a tribute or basically a love poem. Any revenge poems I've written are really just tucked away in a folder in my Google Drive called Poetry Grave, so those have not been included.
Please, one day, like one day, I would love to see the poetry grave. One day, is
One
there, are
day.
there posthumous instructions, or is there like a 25 year, once we've
Maybe
reached a
there should
statute of
be.
limit? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to pre-order it now, just
Okay,
for
great.
25 years from now.
Wonderful.
Have you always been the TMI friend at the party? Like, did you grow up in a family where big feelings were welcomed?
I've always been the TMI person at the party. I've always been immodest, and I think part of that is my Enneagram and my personality, and the other part of that is just the positive feedback I've always um, had from sharing, because once you say something that's true, it lets everyone else say something that's true. And I really feed off of that. I really feed off those deeper stories and those deeper connections. Not that anyone really loves surface conversations. I hate when people are like, I hate small talk. It's like, well, no one really loves that. But small talk is necessary sometimes, but it's obviously can't be the only way we connect with other people. And I've always loved those deeper connections for sure.
Well, I think your poetry is definitely a kind of medicine for a whole lot of other people. When I read this with women, I see it. I wonder, is writing poetry a healing for you?
I think so. Yeah, I think writing in general has always been healing for me. I've been writing poetry, writing screenplays, novels, short stories, anything since I've been 8 years old. And so I think when I look back at that history and look back at those pages and find my old journals, I see that that's always how I've worked through things is on the page. So yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, what is that? I mean, it might have been. Sometimes it's attributed to Joan Didion or Flannery O'Connor, but the idea that how do I know what I think till I write what I wonder, kind of heartbeat. I understand that too. I don't like it when people ask about being a mom and writing because they don't ask about being a dad and writing. So I want to be very clear that my question for you is not about like how do you balance it all, because I don't like that's bullshit and no one does. But I'm interested in how becoming a mother and whether becoming a mother changed you as a writer. Did you, because most of these books, if I'm not mistaken, like aren't they all, I mean, are they all since your babies?
Yes.
So
I mean,
something
I
must have
only got
happened.
published in 2020. I had my last baby in 2018. Um, so yes, I mean the story of getting published in my that's such a long story, but to answer it in the shorter way,
Oh, I don't know. I kind of
yes,
like the long. Welcome the
always
long.
writing, but I wasn't published until after I had my children, and because the work that was published is poetry, and my poetry is deeply personal. They are in every page. They are in every book. Yeah.
And do you think the way that you wrote poetry changed after you became a mom, or the way that you opened your heart, or the way that you loved? I'm interested to know what you think, if anything. I don't know. I'll put it in a different perspective. Like, my dad died, and that sucked, but it made me a better writer. And if you had to
Yeah.
ask me, like, I would definitely be a worse writer and have a dad. But I'm just wondering, I guess, if you see it on the page, anything different, or even in the practice of writing.
Oh, absolutely. My writing life completely changed in 2011 when when my son was born. Um, I found out I got into the MFA of my choice the same week my husband found out he got into med school, and then 2 weeks after that, I found out I was pregnant. One of those jobs pays, one of them doesn't, and so I dropped out of the
Oh my
program
God.
and stayed home. I had three more kids after that. It's truly some of the best years of my life. I don't regret it at all. Um, but that time at home, I still wrote. I wrote the whole time, and the work absolutely improved. The rawness of that, the extremeness of going from a person without children to a person with children, completely opened up a whole new sense of humanity and language. And I read so many writers who were mothers, which really helped me understand how that art can be intertwined with motherhood. It was very difficult. I'm not going to gloss over that. It was extremely difficult. I say at every single event, and I try to say it even on podcasts, that not a single word of anything that I've ever written, not a single book, not a single page would be possible without childcare. But the journey to childcare was very painful and very long. Um, I wrote a piece once called Why I Don't Write During Nap Time, which was something that has been shared so many times because that feeling that, oh, well, you can just write when the children sleep is so ridiculous to me, and so unsustainable. Um, I struggled with deep depression when I found out I was pregnant with my fourth. I had fertility drugs for the others. I was taking fertility, just all sorts of medicine. I have polycystic ovaries. And with the fourth, it was a surprise, and I was already drowning, and I had just gotten a literary agent and thought that I was on a pathway to a book, and instead I found out I was pregnant for the fourth time, deeply depressed throughout that pregnancy, some of the worst postpartum I've ever been in, and I have really had to make a decision at that point whether or not I was going to put on a life vest and save our whole family, or if we were all going to drown. And I ended up putting on that life vest. I went back to work. Um, yeah, the story is so complicated and long. I forgot where I was, but I had been writing pieces on motherhood for Huffington Post, and that's how I had gotten a literary agent. But I was so sick of being called a mommy writer that I took a break from writing about motherhood for 4 years. I worked on a novel. And it was during that time working on a novel that I started cheating with poetry and led to the book What Kind of Woman, which was obviously such a wonderful experience, but a very long road getting there. Yeah.
I love that. Well, first off, the MFA of your choice, if I were the head of that, I would be inviting you to be a professor there. I would be calling you up and saying, Kate, you rock. We missed out on you the first time, and we would love to have you come and teach poetry here on your schedule at your rate and then
That's
some.
nice.
So write them a letter. That's what they should do. If they knew about, I don't know, you want to tell me? It's just us here. Who was it?
Um, how do you say it? Chatham. Now I don't even remember. Chatham?
Yeah,
Catham?
yeah, yeah. All right, I'll see who I know. Folks at Chatham, get on the phone, get on the email, check
I
out your
really
budget.
don't. I really don't feel qualified to teach anyone how to do anything, including poetry. But I do
Sounds
love
like you'd be
speaking to other.
perfect.
I do love speaking to other writers and authors, and I meet a lot of women at my events who really would love to pursue art, whatever art it is, writing, painting, pottery, acting, whatever. Um, and I love meeting them where they're at. And the advice I always give them is nobody cares if you're a writer, not your parents, not your kids, not your wife, not your husband, not your dentist, not your friends. They really don't care. You have to care. You have to care so deeply that you will do whatever you can. It is a lesson I had to really learn the hard way. I didn't share my first poem with anyone until I was 35. Um, I was almost 40 when my first book came out. You really have to care. Um, I did some crazy work to pay for childcare. I edited a 700-page novel from a man in Arizona, a Western romance novel from a man in Arizona, and it was some of the worst writing I've ever read. You could tell from page one he'd never met a woman, and it was just some of the. It's just such a funny book, but I did what I could to pay for that childcare. We had no money. My husband was in school, and we were living in 1,200 square feet. I wrote in Panera with my laptop. I wrote in my minivan because I had to learn that lesson the hard way, which is nobody cares. And I do love meeting writers where they're at because I have been through it. You see people like me who've had some success and think that it just happened, but it really didn't. I spent 4 years working on a novel that went nowhere. I've submitted to the New Yorker 1,000 times. It's a tough road, but if you want it, you do it, and you flex, you use that muscle of failing. I'm going to use it again here in a few weeks when I get to January. I get to put my writing hat back on instead of my circus monkey hat, and that writing hat really just consists of failure over and over again, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, and failing over. I will fail over. I will write so many bad poems. I will start again in a novel that goes nowhere. I will write a short story that has no center. But you have to do that in order to get to anything that's worth sharing. And um, that would really sum up my talk to writers, and which is why they shouldn't bring me, because that was it.
No, I love that. I think a great anthology would be like excerpts from the novels we all have in drawers. I would
Yeah.
love to read the a chapter or some paragraphs. Everyone has a novel in the drawer. And
Absolutely.
they're never going to be published for all kinds of reasons. But I'd love to bring them out and have some
Yeah,
part of them published. I think that would be delightful to work on, and it
truly.
would be great fun for people to see paraded out, like the book that you came from, or what you
Yeah.
pinned all your hopes to that didn't. God, do you remember the pivot? If you were working on a novel for 4 years and you were cheating with poetry, like, do you remember when you like jumped ship from the novel and thought, okay, yeah, this is it? What did that feel like?
It felt so good. It felt like coming into my own voice for the first time in such a clear way. I was sitting in Starbucks working across the street from the hospital where one of my best friends was giving birth to her third child, and I wrote a poem called On the Evening of Her Birth for her, and I shared it. And so many people were like, "Oh, that's it. That's what I've been thinking about. That's how I've been feeling all this time." And I was like, "Oh, you love that boiled down storytelling too." That's what I love about poetry. It's what I love about stand-up comedy. That's what I love about songs is that you're trying to tell this huge story, this big feeling, this big story in just a short amount of time. And that's when I really switched over after that day. I really plugged into that and thought, okay, I have all these big ideas and these big stories and these big feelings. How can I tell someone quickly? Um, so yeah, that was a great moment.
That's fantastic. And does your writing, is it, I mean, you said it's throwing spaghetti at the wall. Do you ever have the, I don't know, just like the burst of energy where like, oh my gosh, this is a poem, get me a pen. Like, does that ever happen? Or is it always just like a grind?
That's how it always happens. The meat of all every single poem I've ever written has come outside of my office. There's a poem in How About Now? There's a line in Marriage Poem that says, "I love my life except for the noise of it." And I found those words when I was coming back from a walk. We walk our dog, and we live in the country, and we walk her in the fields next to our house. And I was coming back from one of our field walks, and it was dark outside, and I was looking in our big bay window in the front of the house, and I saw my daughter playing piano, and my younger one's playing magnet tiles on the floor, and my husband playing a card game with our oldest. And I thought, oh, they're so beautiful. I don't want to go inside. And I pulled out my phone from my pocket and I emailed myself those lines. And I do that for almost every piece. The hard work comes in the office hours, moving the commas, filling in the gaps, sentence structure, how do I tell the story, the awful part of writing. But the heartbeat, I think, always comes from the real world. And so yeah, my notes app in my phone is a cluster. Or I email myself, or I write things down and I shove it under my office door. And then when I'm working in those office hours, that's when I'm trying to piece those together.
I love that. You write notes to yourself. You have to. First off, I don't remember otherwise. I have so many notes.
Absolutely.
When I was writing a novel, I had a notes app just for names that I collected, sitting through like the
Yeah.
kids honor roll, merit roll assembly, and you're zoning out because you're sitting there because you're supposed to sit there. And but I would collect names. I'm like, oh
Yeah. Oh,
wow,
I love that
Wilhelmina,
idea.
that's a great name, or
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Zandri. Okay, like so I have all kinds of notes, and I'd go back to them. I think John Green actually did maybe a 2020 writing. It could have been in the Anthropocene Reviewed podcast or somewhere else. And it was just him going through his notes app from a long time ago, trying to see if he could make sense of any of it. And
I
often
love
the
that.
answer was no, but I love that you find a way to make that into poems. Yay.
Yeah.
Hey, we always wrap with just some little fan favorites. These are not really about the poem so much as just this and that questions. Can I get you to play along?
Absolutely.
Okay. These first few, just pick one. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Dogs or cats?
Oh, that's tough. Cats.
Freshly squeezed orange juice or homemade lemonade?
Oh, homemade lemonade.
Barbies or Lego?
Barbies.
Weddings or funerals?
kind of the same thing. I'm going to say weddings though, because the outfits are better.
Yeah. My grandma was the first person who said that weddings and funerals were the same. And I'm just like, Grandma, they're
They
not.
are. It's a death. It's such a death either way.
They are. And she liked funerals better because you didn't have to bring a present.
Oh, that's true. That is true. That's a huge pro.
You see the same people. I don't know. And
It's
the older you
easier to
get,
dress for a funeral. It's
it
easier to
is.
dress for a funeral. Yeah,
And you can wear the same dress. You don't have to like, oh, did they see me in this one?
exactly.
Bridesmaid or efficient?
Bridesmaid.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Oh, night owl.
Are you a risk taker or the person who always knows where the band-aids are?
Risk taker.
You said you're a night owl. Do you write at night or do you write in the day?
Because I have children, I mostly write during the day. I read a lot at night, and so often when I'm reading, I that is such, the biggest way to get out of writer's block. So that often triggers me to think of various lines or phrases or ideas. But yeah, every once in a while, yeah.
Yeah. These next few are fill in the blank. So, what's a word or words that you just love? Like you love to write it, it ends up in your poems, you love to pronounce it, you overuse it in interviews. I don't know. What are some of your words?
I don't know, but I every time I write a book, I'm asked to remove a word that I've said over and over. I think in this book it was mortal. I kept writing the word mortal because I really was facing, I think because I was facing my own mortality with some health crises before I wrote this. I think the idea of being mortal and mortality really was on my mind. Um, so I think that word, there's two poems that mention frogs in here. Also, lucky, the idea of luck and lucky is in here a lot, but each book really has that that word that keeps coming up that I'm like, oh, I have to cut this, or else it's every page for sure. I don't remember what they were for the other books because I don't remember writing them. I don't know if this is like this for you. I don't remember ever writing a poem really. There's a few that I remember, but the other ones I can't even place. I can't even place myself. The meat of it, I know where it came from, but the actual writing it, I'm like, where was I? It's like I go and it's like I almost write with one eye shut, and so I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of that, and I don't remember what those repeated words are.
Have you ever written the same poem twice and not realized you'd already written it?
Yes,
Isn't that
absolutely.
isn't that bananas?
Yeah,
I was putting together, I do a lot of writing alongside students, and so I am absolutely writing with one eye. Like I'm in charge of a classroom, but I'm also writing at the same time. So I don't even remember that I've written it. And then I'll go back through notebooks. I'm like, oh, here's the one about the pool party we had at my aunt's funeral. And then I'll
yeah.
find it again. I'm like, I wrote that three times, and I only remember doing it once, if any.
Yes, and it's also a reason why, especially poets, but all writers will repeat other poets' work by accident because those words get trapped in my mind, and I won't remember that it came from somewhere else. Um, Cameron Awkward Rich, do you know who he is?
I don't.
Is that how you say his name? He has a poem that says, "Hand over my beating heart, put my hand over my heart." And I put that at the end of one of my poems and had to change it last minute because I realized, oh, that's his line, but I didn't even know that it came into my mind that way. I happened to see his poem somewhere else and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the line I wrote and I've read this poem before. I bet that's where I got that. It's impossible not to do that in all art, music, stand up, again, all of those storytelling ways. It's very hard not to get other people's words trapped in your head because, especially if you connect with them, it becomes your own. Um, I try to remember that when I see other people's work with my lines in it. I'm like, that's okay. That's what happens.
Oh, I hadn't thought about
Uh,
that. They would do that to you now, of course.
yes, of
Yes, let
course.
me read you my poem. It's called How About Now?
Yeah, right. It's wild. I try to remember that I've done the same totally unintentionally. Of course, unintentionally. I would never want to do that intentionally. It would be horrifying. Um, but yeah, that's something people don't talk about, but I know is something that's happening all the time.
Very true. A few more fill in the blanks for you. If I wasn't working as a writer, or if you weren't working as a writer and you had a little magic, what would you do instead?
How much magic do I have? Because I'd love to open a cat sanctuary, but I'd also love to be singing on a stage, being like a pop star. I think that'd be so cathartic if I could sing like Celine Dion. Don't you think that would feel so good? I think
It,
that would feel incredible to be able to kind of blast my art out of my body in a way that then there's this gigantic release. I think that looks so great. I think that would feel so wonderful. So that's what I would do. But I would love to have a cat sanctuary. That's what I could actually do.
so in my mind, as you did that, you were singing and the cats were there. So in my
Oh,
mind, I
good.
think it would feel cathartic to you and maybe to the cats as well. But why not combine those two? I love
That's
seeing that.
true. That's true. I could perform four cats. Then I don't need to have any skill. So I actually can do this.
I look forward to seeing it. That's
Yes.
great. Um, who's an author we should be reading right now?
Oh, I just finished a book I love. Hold on, let me find it. It's right here in my office. I just finished this morning. It's called Correspondent,
Oh, I've heard good things about
by
this.
Virginia Evans.
It's living up to like sometimes you think sometimes things get hyped and then you're like, eh, but this one's living up to the hype.
Oh, 100%. I
Hmm.
just finished it this morning. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. Heart the Lover was wonderful.
The Lily King book.
The Lily King book.
Hmm.
This is a very similar title, but I'm an evangelist for it. I talk about it at every stop. Annie Hartnett wrote a book called The Road to Tender Hearts, and it's the best book I've read this year. I recommend it to everyone, and anyone can read it. Your parents can read it, or your friend who's going through a hard time can read it, or your spouse. It's just one that I recommend to everybody. I loved Martyr. That didn't come out this year, but is always on my mind. Yeah, I love to read, and I'm a big lit fit girly. So yeah, The Correspondent was wonderful.
All right, we'll make sure to link to those in the show notes. Pop culture question: what's something that if you're in, I don't know, like an airport waiting room or it's on TV and you're going past it, even though you've seen it, you know you're gonna just stop and watch it, even if it's in the middle. I don't know what's something that you love, a TV show or a movie, even a video.
Anytime I see Arrested Development or 30 Rock, I always pause to see where it is. I can mouth the words with them, but I always laugh.
Her?
Her, uh, and
Cornballer. Oh, it's so
It's just
hot.
it's so there's so many things from both of those shows. Yeah, I know. It's just it always gets me. It's so funny. And you know what? Not everybody likes it. There's a lot of people who don't like Arrested Development, but it's like it's a very niche humor, but it's one that there's no wasted breaths in that show for me. Every line is perfect, and I love it so much. Yeah,
Maria Semple, the one who wrote Where Have You Gone, Bernadette? I don't know if you caught that book. It was
loved
a
it.
little bit, but Maria Semple was one of the consulting writers on that show, and I
That
feel
makes
like
sense.
there's a one-to-one correspondence. If you thought like Where Have You Gone, Bernadette was like just really wildly funny and uncanny and madcap,
Yes.
then you'll like Arrested Development, and if you didn't, then you
Absolutely.
won't. That was
Exactly.
maybe the first, that and Parks and Rec were maybe the first two shows I watched with my son when he was sort of becoming a
Yeah.
human who had similar tastes with me. And that was just great to know that he thought it was funny too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. I'm gonna watch that with my son. I hadn't even thought about that. He's gonna love it. That's great.
Yeah, it's because you've got enough in there that's edgy, and he'll actually do the lines. It's like, I don't know what you mean, and I will not respond. Like he actually
Yeah.
remembers. It's like
Yeah.
Lucille.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it works for boys. Last two here. What do you like about where you live?
It's really beautiful here. It's really stunning, and there has to be an upside because there are so many downsides.
Remind me
It's
where here is for
gorgeous.
you.
I live in Pennsylvania, not in Pennsylvania, on the side that's kind of close to like the beach in New York City, but I live in a gorgeous landscape. I'm surrounded by ag protected farmland. I'm seeing a tractor literally go by my house as I'm looking out the window. I never thought I'd end up somewhere like here, but I can go into my backyard and nobody sees me, and there's something very peaceful about that.
I love that. What's your favorite ice cream?
Chocolate peanut butter.
Good stuff. I lied. I guess there were three more. Okay, last one. If we were to take a snapshot of you really happy and doing something you love, what would we see?
I think just to circle back to what I said before about looking in the window and seeing my family, but not being part of their noise. I think anytime I'm in that scenario, whether it's at home or at the beach or in the mountains or in the car, where everyone is at peace and being their true full selves, but not involving me in that, I think that's when I'm the happiest is at peace because I know I've done my job.
That's great. Kate Baer, thank you so much for making time today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
You wrote in How About Now, your most recent one, that there is very little women choose to keep from one another. And I think that your poetry actually helps women keep even less from one another. It brings people to the page, it brings people to communion, it brings women especially to the best part of the field trip. So thank you again for the great gift of your work.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Folks, Kate Baer's most recent book is How About Now, but honestly, there are like I've got three of them just like lying around here. You can't go wrong with any of her books, and you can find them at a library or an indie shop near you. To everyone listening, we're wishing you love and light wherever the day takes you. Be good to yourself and be good to one another. And we'll see you again soon on this wild and precious journey.